Quantum computing stocks are moving thanks to a new major catalyst. Joining us today is MarketBeat analyst Jeffrey Neal Johnson to talk about this big move for the entire quantum computing space. We're going to cover 5 names in this video today, 2 on the safer side and 3 pure play quantum stocks to talk about. But Jeffrey, we need to start out with the big news in this quantum computing space, and that is the investment from the federal government. Break down exactly what this announcement was that came out just last week.
Yeah, so the government wants to stay in front of the quantum computing revolution. So they doled out about $2.013 billion to be exact, from the U.S. Department of Commerce through the Chips and Sciences Act, and kind of pass that around through the sector to the bigger players to help speed along different parts of their business, but overall to help speed along the quantum revolution.
So this is $2 billion from Uncle Sam going into these private companies that are working to develop this quantum computing space. Let's talk about why. We've seen the federal government getting involved in, rare earth mining stocks this last couple of years, and now they're getting involved in the quantum computing space. Why is that?
From a science level, it's kind of like the next AI, right? From a strategy standpoint, quantum computers are theoretically capable of breaking all kinds of encryption. And so having control over that technology and being able to use that technology and understand it is probably the most important thing after AI.
Well, we know AI has been advancing so quickly already. We already have this massive AI boom happening across the US, and it seems like a race with all of these hyperscalers of who's going to be first, who's going to have the biggest and the best. Is that happening in the quantum space yet? And why are we moving into this space when we're already seeing so much growth and development in AI?
So when AI first came out, there was a race for bigger, better, faster, right? And AI seems to be kind of a winner takes all arms race. And quantum computing really isn't that. So there's multiple kinds of technology. There's supercomputing, there's neutral atom, there's gate model annealing, and all of these technologies can be used for different use cases, right? Being on the forefront of all of those is going to be super important just for the next computing revolution. And so while there are some similarities where it's such a fledgling industry, the difference is that AI kind of started as a winner takes all kind of race and still kind of feels like a winner takes all kind of race. And quantum computing really isn't a winner takes all kind of race. It's a very open scientific field. And there's so much that needs to be developed within that field. And it's just a matter of perfecting that technology and making it widely commercially available.
Yeah, and this investment is a way to make sure that research and development continues to happen in these quantum companies, that growth continues to happen, because it takes a lot of money for all of the work going into building these super quantum computers. And I think there's a lot of implications. Again, just one more question before we get into the 5 different names that you have for us today on why the federal government is concerned in this and why they want to make sure that this sector doesn't fail. They want to make sure that the companies that they're supporting, the companies we're going to talk about today, have that little extra boost to make sure that they're not diluting their shares and struggling to fund all of the research that they're doing. And that's because it's not just keeping America capitalism, these companies profitable. There's a lot of other implications too, really for national security.
The country that perfects this and stabilizes this, right, could take a strategic leap forward. But more importantly, the country that understands this first will also be able to build the cybersecurity backstop to prevent other countries from taking advantage of our country.
Yeah, there are some serious implications, and that's why we're seeing so much investment from countries like the US government. We're also seeing a lot of different companies entering this field because there's a lot of potential here and a lot of investment happening here. And that's why we've seen a couple of new IPOs in the quantum computing pure play space. And there's other quantum computing companies out there that aren't quite public yet. So if you are wanting to stay on top of all of the newest IPOs coming, make sure to check out this free special report on MarketBeat.com right now. You can scan the QR code or click the link in the description to get this free list of the hottest IPOs to watch in 2026. It's a great list covering a variety of sectors, but quantum computing is one of those hot sectors with new IPOs coming all the time. And Jeffrey, we're going to get into that quantum computing pure play space towards the end of this list, those names that a lot of investors are familiar with talking about in quantum computing. But first, we're going to start out with 2 of the safer names to invest in quantum quantum computing. And this first name on the list, Jeffrey, got a huge chunk of that $2 billion investment from the US government.
So the first plays International Business Machines, IBM. They received the largest chunk of money. They got $1 billion, which they also are matching from their financials with $1 billion. So they're going to use $2 billion to start this new division called Anderon, and that division is specifically going to be a foundry. So think of Intel's new chip foundry. This is going to be a foundry that specifically builds quantum chips. It's going to be I think, a 300 millimeter wafer chip, and they're going to start producing those theoretically within the next couple of years.
And this isn't new for IBM. IBM, again, is a company that's been around for a very long time, but they've been in the quantum space for a little while now, right? Let's talk about that history with IBM and how, when they actually entered that quantum computing race a little bit.
Their commercial era for quantum actually started in like 2016. They were one of the first to put a quantum computer in the cloud and allow people to sign up for quantum as a service through the cloud provider.
So that's interesting because they're already working to monetize quantum computing as a part of their business. And they already have a big business other than just this sector. This is one sector of an already very stable business, like you said, that's been around for a while. And so let's talk about that as a competitive edge in this quantum computing race. We will talk about those pure play quantum computing stocks that we often talk about on this channel and that a lot of retail investors are very interested in. But let's talk about if you are a retail investor and you're looking at investing in quantum, that's maybe less risky. Does IBM really fit that bill, just given the financials and the stability they already have?
Quantum is now kind of officially moving from the realm of like the academic science project to a commercialization phase. And IBM was the one that led the way on that, so they've got kind of a moat there already. Plus they're IBM. They've been around forever, so they have a defensible brand. So that also adds to their moat. And then they have the diversity of their legacy businesses to kind of backstop and feed this quantum computing revolution on their side, which is why they were able to match with $1 billion. So the flip side of that is that you get exposure to the quantum industry, you get exposure to whoever wins on the quantum side, right? Because IBM's making the chips, so they're a pick and shovel play, which of course I love. Even if it takes them a little longer to get where they need to be, they have such a strong financial history and they have such a strong financial footing that it really won't make a big difference in the long run for the investor. But when they actually get there, that's when the investor will see.
Yeah, I think the other argument can be made that there's not a lot of volatility, which means there's not as much to be made either. So I think if you're an investor who thinks like that, we're going to get to those stocks in just a minute. We have one other stock to talk about first that's also a safer play that is already having some revenue coming in, but it has seen some more tremendous growth than what IBM has. So let's get to the second name on your list, Jeffrey.
So the second name is going to be Global Foundries, and that's GFS. They got $375 million, and that was to create a domestic multimodality supply chain. And so what that means is that Global Foundries is the only player in the game right now that can do all three types of chips. So that 375 million that they got was to help push their moat and extend their moat a little bit further.
This one has had tremendous growth this year. It's up 145% year to date. It had a really big jump with this announcement of the federal funding coming to it as well. And so I'm wondering about, as an investor, if you're looking at getting into a stock like this one that's already had such a run up, is there anyone betting against Global Foundries right now because it's seen such a big surge? Or what's your take on looking to get into a stock that's seen so much momentum already?
There's still so much room to grow. When you start talking about where this could go, I mean, they're at a high now in an industry that, is a baby. It's not even walking yet.
Right. I think that's a great way to put it. This is still a very early stages of quantum computing. This sector hasn't even really gone fully commercial yet. And so until this is more widespread, we don't know just how much of an impact it could have on this company, Global Foundries. Also talking about looking at what analysts have to say about this one, there are plenty of very bullish analysts who are giving it 100. I think there's a $125 price target on this name, even after this 150% run it's had just this year. And so I think that there are plenty of people who are involved in this space who know that there's a lot of potential in this company. Why is that too? Let's just talk about the moat that this company has and why there's specifically excitement around this one, even more so than the other names that we're talking about on this list today.
When you talk about IBM, they're opening their supercomputer division. It's paperwork right now, right? The Global Foundries has all 3 technologies on lockdown, and they can make the equipment for it now. That gives them a moat even against IBM at this point. The short interest on this thing is so incredibly low because it's such a compelling story that there aren't very many people willing to bet against this.
All right, well, that's a good look at this name. Let's move on to now those more pure play quantum stocks, the ones that we normally talk about when we're talking about quantum computing. And let's see how much of this federal government investment these pure play companies are getting to keep their research and development alive with and help support some of the cash burn that they have on all of the investment it takes to actually get quantum computing to the finish line. What's the first company you're looking at in that area?
Okay, so 9 companies got award money, but only 3 of them are on the stock market, right? And the first one is gonna be D-Wave. It's QBTS. I like these guys because they're kind of like a dual technology player. They're already selling their quantum annealing services on the cloud, right? And so then their gate technology is being developed. So they're already making money off of the annealing side. And then when the gate side comes online, that's just going to extend their market. And so I think that they're doing really well, and they got the $100 million grant to continue to extend their moat out in both the gate technology side and the annealing side. It is really volatile because quantum technology is fairly extravagant at this point. So even though there are investors like me that understand the technology, even I don't really 100% I don't even think the scientists 100% understand what's going on, to be honest. That's how extravagant this technology is, right?
Yeah, this has been a name that a lot of investors have really liked in the quantum computing space. It's absolutely had some volatility over the last year. It is down year over year, but it's up about 91% in the last 5 years. So if you were an early investor, you're still having some decent returns on this name. And if you look at what analysts are saying about D-Wave 2, there's a lot of expectations on this entire sector. And you're going to see that in the other 2 names that we talk about on this list too. So let's just get into those, Jeffrey. Let's get into the second name that you're looking at and how much of a piece of that federal funding did the second name get?
So the next one's going to be Rigetti. And it's RGTI, and they're like a full stack quantum builders. So they do supercomputing, qubit technology. They got $100 million as well. Rigetti got it specifically to build their Cepheus One system, which is going to be a 180 qubit system.
Yeah, that's a big project coming up for Rigetti, and we've seen such a huge jump in this stock as well. This one was up quite a bit, just spiking last week, but it had been on a downtrend, much like D-Wave was as well. And I know if you are already in the quantum space, you know that these stocks tend to move together. Their charts often look very similar, even though what's happening behind the scenes with these companies are very different. So let's talk about a little bit about what's happening behind the scenes with Rigetti. What did we see in their recent earnings report, Jeffrey?
So their Q1 revenues surged like 198%, so almost 200%. That's fantastic. They executed a $100 million investment from the UK to start building a 1,000 qubit system, which kind of makes that 108 qubit Cepheus system we were talking about a minute ago look small in comparison. They got earnings coming up in August. And what we want to see is that they're continuing to grow contracts or continuing to build their revenue. I think that these guys are on track because they have like a super powerful balance sheet. I mean, their balance sheet is made out of rock. It's like $569 million in cash. So they have a multi-year runway based on their current cash burn to pull this off. And in the meantime, they're continuing to build that runway, with $100 million from this country and $100 million from over there and $100 million from here.
Yeah, this really is the new arms race, is that technology arms race across the globe of who's going to get the technology first and who's going to get the protections first that you mentioned earlier too. And that is what quantum is, and that's why we're seeing so much investment in this space. But it is still early. It is still technology that is being built. And so you hit the nail on the head talking about Rigetti with having a lot of cash on hand, having that solid balance sheet. And when you're looking as an investor, you need to balance the brilliance, right? The brilliance in do they have the right people on the team to get that breakthrough first with effective use of the funding that they have as well. And are they able to balance those two things to help them get to the finish line? And Rigetti seems to be doing that very well so far.
So they have their annual general meeting on June the 9th this year, and, it looks like, that's where they're gonna come out and say where they're at and where things are going, what they're gonna be doing with this money, that sort of thing. But, it's interesting to see that there's a lot of speculation going on in this because, Rigetti has a really high short interest right now. It's somewhere around 15%, but over the past, say, 10 days, they've had some pretty unusual call options days as well. So you've got some institutional investors buying large tranches of call options, betting against the high short interest, all ahead of this June 9th report that's coming out. So it creates kind of an interesting little scenario to see what happens next with these guys.
All right, let's get on to that last name you have on the list, Jeffrey. And this is one of the newer players in the pure play quantum computing space that has a lot of investors very excited. I was one of them. I added this to my Bridget's Buys watch list. If you watch our content often, you know I like to add one stock per video we talk about to this paper trading watch list on marketbeat.com. You can scan the QR code or just go to marketbeat.com/Bridget to check out some of the names we talk about on this list. And this is one of them. Jeffrey, let's get to this new quantum computing stock that has so many investors excited this year.
So the next one's Inflection, and it's INFQ. They are the new guy on the block. They IPO'd in February of this year. They got $100 million from the government as well. So it seems like you get 100 million, you get 100 million, you get 100 million, everybody gets 100 million kind of a situation going on here. They are doing something interesting, or that I find interesting. They're using lasers in a vacuum to trap atoms, and that's how their technology works. This is going to lead to a supercomputer that can operate at room temperature on your desk. And they have been doing pretty well over the past few months as far as their price action goes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They've had the spike that everyone else has seen in this quantum computing space. This one, again, it's the newest public company, but is it actually any newer than the other two companies we talked about, or is it just new to be public? And I also thought really interesting is that you mentioned these are the three public companies in the quantum computing space that got a piece of that government funding. There are other quantum computing companies that aren't public yet anyway, that have also gotten a piece of this funding. So there's other players in this race that investors maybe aren't able to invest in quite yet. But who could win? Who knows? That they're all approaching it differently too. And I think that's what's interesting when you look at the technology behind this. It's not like they're all working on exactly the same thing. They are working towards a similar goal, but they're looking at different ways to get there.
The different forms of quantum computing are used for different reasons. One type of quantum computing can be used for routing logistics, millions of logistics operations through the most efficient way possible, but it may not be able to be used for like other quantum computing operations or other quantum computing use cases, right? Inflection has been around for a while, right? So they SPACed into the market. They just came in via SPAC. There are players in the list that may IPO soon that have talked about IPOing as well. So for people that are interested in that, they should pull the full list from the Department of Commerce's website and follow the other seven and specifically look on their websites for IPO information because the $100 million that a lot of these companies are individually getting from the government is going to build the entire industry forward. And with so many ways of doing quantum computing currently, the option of there not being just one winner sitting there, right? You really want to stay on top of kind of all of these players from the foundry side of things. It really just kind of comes down to your risk tolerance because it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, right? They're already proven that this isn't a science project anymore. And now it's a matter of how quick can they get it working? commercialized where they're making money and returning value back to the shareholders.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some new names added to the quantum computing race because the race is still on. Jeffrey, thank you for this list today. Again, if you are interested in keeping up on some of the hottest IPOs of the year, make sure to check out the special report. It's a list of the hottest IPOs every retail investor should be watching this year. You can scan the QR code or click the link in the description to get that report right now for free on marketbeat.com. And if you want to learn more about the quantum computing space, we have lots of videos on our channel talking about quantum computing. Check out this recent one we just did on some other quantum names too.